Okay, let's get going. People are still joining, but we will kick it off. So my name is Kimball Parker. I'm the CEO of 650. 650 is the technology subsidiary of the law firm Wilson Sonsini. And so at 650, we offer privacy solutions, compliance solutions. We have a solution for the GDPR and the CCPA. And recently, we helped develop some tools for some free tools for the COVID-19 crisis. And so that's 650. And today, this webinar, I'm going to keep it brief. We're going to talk about. So here we go. The 4 things you need to know about privacy in the time of COVID. So this was previously the 5 things you need to know. And then when we looked at it, we thought, well, 4 of them are really important. So maybe let's just stick with those 4. So we're going to do only 4 things, not 5. Okay. So number 1, working from home. Number 2, CCPA enforcement. Number 3, GDPR enforcement. And number 4, employee health data. In fact, I think that we're actually doing employee health data second. So we're going to do working from home first, employee health data second, CCPA enforcement third, and GDPR enforcement fourth. Okay, so let's jump in. Working from home. All right, so when on March 11th, when the NBA decided to shut down its season, to suspend the season, Lincoln Porter and I got together. Lincoln is my co-founder at a 650, and thought, okay, geez, maybe it's time for us to transition to work from home as well. Work from home now that it looks like a lot of it, that's kind of the way a lot of businesses are going, and our favorite sports league is shut down. Maybe it's time for us to shut down and to really shut down our office. And so we started doing that, and we quickly figured out, gosh, this is like very, very complicated. And we're really lucky because we're attached to one of the best law firms in the world. So we got some guidance from the employment experts at Wilson Sonsini, and from really one of the best privacy people in the nation. Her name is Maria Satalis. And she helped us develop some policies, and to put some policies in place, and that really guided our action, moving our workforce to work from home. And so, but what we realized is that there's a cocktail of regulation to deal with when you move your workforce remote. And it's actually, this is a very, very complicated process. And so, when we were done, we really thought, geez, how does any company do this thoughtfully without someone like Marina Satalis helping them? And so here are some of the things we learned. Number 1, when you move your workforce to work from home, you need policies and procedures in place that govern how to do that, because there are some very complicated situations. One of them, which is number 2, the one that has to do with privacy, is that people, so a lot of businesses. So actually, let me back up. Our company was actually in some ways was very lucky. Our company functions totally on laptops, and we use secure cloud applications for a lot of our work. And so working from home technically was not that big of a burden. But for a lot of companies, maybe they don't have laptops, right? Maybe most of their workforce is on a computer, which means that if you tell your workforce to work from home, they might be using their own computers. And they may have to be putting information onto their own home computers. Also, if you tell people to work from home, they're going to be using their own home internets, not the secure internet from your company. And so this that raises some data security and some privacy concerns. And so there, those are some considerations. You need to make sure that your employees, well, first of all, you need policies in place that lay out what kind of privacy and security measures your employees need when they're working from home. And then you need to ensure that those employees need to see those policies, acknowledge that they've received them, and agree to abide by them as they're working from home. They need to have secure home networks. They maybe need to like reset their passwords and their network names. They need to make sure that they're monitoring the activity on their networks and see who's joining, especially if they're pulling up confidential client information or sensitive financial information from home. Also, transferring data through FTP sites or through through hard drives or USBs. The company needs to make sure that they know where all those copies of confidential information are, how they're being stored, where they're being uploaded to. Companies need to keep track of that. Some companies may have a VPN service that they can do from home, which helps a lot to let them log into their virtual desktop, maybe at work. But among the kind of difficult things that working from home raises, privacy and confidentiality is really is pretty high up there. Some other things to keep in mind, which are not privacy related really, are that all the employment laws that apply for people when they work from the office also apply when they work from home. So the American Disabilities Act, OSHA, having a safe working environment, all those still apply. And so really, companies can get into a lot of trouble if they kind of haphazardly send their workers off to work from home. You need a plan of action. You need some policies and procedures in place to kind of guide you and to protect you. And you need to make sure that the information is secure. Okay, number 3. There's an increase in phishing activity during this time. So as the workforce is spread apart, it's left open some opportunity for hackers to go in and to pose maybe as the CEO or different people to try to get people to click on links or to go to the store and get gift cards. We've actually had a few of those ourselves at our company, people posing actually to be me and then asking different workers to go get gift cards. Luckily, we have procedures and policies in place and training to help people realize when those are phishing activities, to kind of look for the telltale signs. But just so companies are aware, there's an increase in phishing activity during this time. Okay, there is working from home. Let's see if we have any questions before we move on. You can leave the questions. You can leave them in the Q&A. You can click Q&A, or you can do it as a chat. And so we'll just wait for a second to see if there's any questions about what's needed to work from home. While we're waiting, let me say that we worked with the employment group at Wilson Sonsini to develop some free policies to transition your workforce to work remotely. Also, policies surrounding extended sick leave under the new federal legislation. The EFMLA kind of takes into account the latest laws that have been passed. Also, policies on reimbursement and travel during COVID. And those are available for free at 650.com/COVID. Okay, moving on. Employee health data. Now this is pretty interesting. In normal circumstances, it's not advisable for a company to collect health data, kind of sensitive health data about their workforce. Okay, and a company can run into to problems if they do, but that has changed. So here's the guidance from the CDC. So under the CDC guidance, employers need to know if their employees have contracted COVID-19 in order to notify other employees who may have come in contact with the sick individual. So companies have an obligation to create a safe, healthy working space. And really during a pandemic like this, it's becomes important for them to know who within their workforce has contracted COVID-19. And again, just like the CDC says, and to figure out who else among the employees they've been in contact with. Now, this was more of an issue when companies were still transitioning to work from home. Most companies are working from home now, but there are still a lot of companies who have people on the ground coming in and working, maybe in close proximity with other people. And so anyway, companies, the CDC is advising that basically companies make the effort to figure out who within the company has contracted COVID-19 and who else they've come in contact with. Okay, so the EEOC basically has said something similar. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has recognized that some of the typical rules regarding asking for medical information do not apply during this pandemic. So, typically, whereas a company may, should be careful and not collect that information generally, those rules don't apply during this pandemic. The EEOC has classified COVID-19 as a direct threat, which allows employers to collect medical information about the virus from employees. And so, companies need a way to collect that data in a way that's confidential and sensitive. That health data should not be put into the employee's regular employee file, but a company does need a way to track who's been sick, and then again to notify other people. Actually, looks like we have a question here. Are there any limitations on a business asking potential customers if they have COVID-19 systems before providing services? Gosh, actually, that is a really good question. I don't have the answer to that kind of off the top of my head here, but that's something where we can go back to the employment group at Wilson Sonsini and ask that. And so the person who asked that question is coming in as anonymous. If you want to leave, you can email your name and email address to kimball@650.com. That's my email, KIMBALL@650.com. If you email me with this question, then we will pass it along to the employment group and see what they say and to get back to you on it. Really good question. That actually has never come up. So yeah, asking potential customers whether they have COVID-19 systems. Thank you for that. And I could see how where that could come into play there. So one more thing. Let me just stop to see if there's any other questions. And while I do, let me mention we here at 650 we have a questionnaire system that we typically use for companies to collect data access requests under the GDPR and the CCPA. So to help collect information from people who say, delete my data or give me access to my data. And we offer that for free for people to use with for the COVID-19 emergency with their employees. And so it's a system where a company can send out a link to their employees. The employees can click on the link and it'll run them through some questions to see if they have COVID-19, who they've been in contact with, and then it'll give the company kind of a list of those tickets, of those submissions once they're submitted. And again, that kind of ticketing or questionnaire system is offered for free for COVID uses. You can access that at 650.com/COVID. Okay, moving on. We're halfway through. It's 11:15. My goal is to end at 11:30. CCPA enforcement. Now this has been an interesting road here, and so more than 60 companies and organizations sent a letter to the AG on March 20th, asking for a 6-month delay in the CCPA. So just to kind of level set, the CCPA is the California Consumer Privacy Act. It was passed in 2018, in the summer of 2018, and it went into effect January 1st, 2020. Now, people are asking for a 6-month delay in CCPA enforcement, and that may be confusing because you think, well, I thought it went into effect on January 1st, so what are they really asking for here? Basically, the AG, even though the law went into effect on January 1st, the AG decided not to enforce the CCPA until July 1st, 2020, okay? So what these people are really asking is that the AG not enforce the law starting on July 1st, but instead delay it 6 months until January 1st, 2021. So basically extending the 6-month enforcement grace period to a year. Okay, so the AG not biting. So this is what the AG said in the response. The CCPA has been in effect since January 1st, 2020. True. We're committed to enforcing the law starting July 1st. We encourage businesses to be particularly mindful of data security in this time of emergency. So the AG not budging, okay? The AG is still planning to enforce the CCPA on companies on July 1st. Just as kind of a short review. Oh, sorry, here we go. This is what he said. We're committed to enforcing the law starting July 1st. For review, the CCPA applies to any company that does business in California and makes over $25 million in revenue. There are actually some other businesses who get caught in, but any business that does $25 million in revenue and does business in California has to comply. Okay, so this actually continues. So then companies didn't give up, okay? They then kind of kept asking the AG to delay the enforcement. And again, the AG really has not budged. And in fact, the AG has issued guidance saying, you know, companies need to be very, very careful with what they collect during this time, and that their obligations are intact. So you know, we will wait to see if there's any additional asks and replies from the AG's office, but it's looking like the AG is pretty committed to enforcing the law starting on July 1st. Okay. Any questions about the California Attorney General? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Let's move on then. So, important thing number 3, the CCPA is going to be enforced starting on July 1st. Okay. Next and final point, the GDPR. What is happening with the GDPR during this COVID-19 emergency? So just to back up, the GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulation. It was passed by the European Union in 2016, and it went into effect in May 2018. And it's the governing privacy law for the European Union. And so any company that does business in Europe has to comply with the GDPR. Okay, so here's what we know. There is no suspension of GDPR enforcement during the COVID-19 emergency. Okay, the different data authorities are still committed to enforcing the GDPR and to making sure that people's privacy rights are protected despite the pandemic. Okay, so it's similar to the CCPA. They're not going to ignore people's privacy rights because of the pandemic, even though it may not be convenient for companies. So second, generally the GDPR does not prevent the collection of personal data related to COVID-19. And so, just like we were saying before, companies can collect people's health data. And in fact, different US departments have recommended that companies do it. But under the GDPR, companies should continue to follow GDPR principles when collecting and processing that data. So for example, they must have a legal basis for collecting and processing that data. They must put specific protections around it. They must know what they're doing with that data. They must disclose to their employees and to their customers what data they have on them related to COVID-19. And actually that's kind of one point back with the CCPA. The CCPA requires for basically every company that they disclose to their employees what they're doing with their data. And so if you're collecting COVID-19 data, you need to make those disclosures not only under the GDPR, but under the CCPA as well. So people need to make disclosures to their employees and to anybody else who if they have COVID-19 related information. Okay, let me stop here. Any questions about any of those four things? So number one, working from home. You need to make sure your employees have a safe working environment and that the information is kept confidential while they work from home. A lot of that has to do with what devices your employees are using during this time and what networks they're using, whether those are secure. Second, collecting employee health data. Under normal circumstances, you probably shouldn't do that. However, these are unique circumstances. The CDC and the EEOC has recommended the companies do it. Number three, the CCPA. The CCPA will be enforced on July 1st. At least that's how it's looking so far, despite companies asking the Attorney General not to enforce it, to delay enforcement for another 6 months. But the AG has rebuffed those so far and says that they're going to enforce it. And the GDPR, there's no suspension of the GDPR, but any collection of COVID-related information needs to be processed under GDPR principles and following those guidelines. And again, GDPR covers European health data, sorry, European personal data. Okay, so let me say one more plug. We are during this pandemic, we've released a series of free tools for businesses and people. Okay, and so we've released 2 free tools for people. Those tools are a site called Hello Lender. Hello Lender is a tool that will help people who've lost their job to write a letter to their loan servicer to help them delay their mortgage payments for 6 months. That's a new right under the CARES Act, the new federal stimulus. And so we worked with our experts here to help automate a letter that people can send to their loan servicers to delay their mortgage payments for 10 months so that they aren't foreclosed. Number 2, we released a tool called Hello Landlord. That's at hellolandlord.org. And that tool will help people write a letter to their landlord telling them that they can't make rent payment and that there are restrictions against evictions. Okay? So again, we worked with the experts, with an expert to draft that, and then we automated it so that somebody who maybe has lost their job and can't pay rent, they can write a letter to their landlord and notifying them that the federal government and state and local governments have restricted evictions during this time period. Both of those are free. Okay, they're free to use. There's no revenue angle here for us. We wanted to help in any way we could. And so we developed those tools for people. They've been very heavily used. Over 2,000 people have used them in 2 weeks. as we know, there are millions of people who've lost their jobs, tens of millions of people who've lost their jobs over the past 4 weeks due to this pandemic. And so if any of you know anybody who's lost their jobs and maybe cannot pay their mortgage or cannot pay their rent, please direction them to hellolender.org or hellolandlord.org. And finally, I mentioned this before, we created some free tools for businesses. So where businesses can go on and generate employment policies and can have a system to collect data from their employees about COVID-19. Those free resources for businesses are available at 650.com/COVID. If you have any questions, any other questions, let me just check the chat here to see if there are any questions that have arisen. So if there are any other questions, please feel free to reach out. You can reach out to me directly at kimball@650.com or Marie Kulbeth at marie@650.com. You can also email support. If you need any help complying with the CCPA or GDPR, please let us know. We can help you there as well. Our for-profit products fuel all of our free products. And so we're going to continue to try to make free products that help people during the COVID emergency. And then if you need any compliance services, we're here to help as well. So thank you very much, and hope that you stay safe and that you follow good privacy principles during this time. Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.